It seems to be in real time on YouTube. Okay, so I think we will start. Welcome everybody to the YFTT, the tech talk that we do every Friday. It's really a talk from engineers to engineers. And today we have Ari, who will talk and show us a new feature that is implemented in Yugabyte. And this time it's about rolling back the upgrades. So with any software, you have to upgrade the software, and for some reason, you may want to roll back this upgrade, and that will be possible. So, hi, Ari. Let's go.
Hey, Frank. Hey, hello, good morning, good evening, everyone. Just a quick intro about myself. I'm Krishna Sunder. I'm a software engineer here at YugabyteDB. I mainly work on the backend stuff of the database, storage engine, transactions, X cluster, upgrades, of course, and things like that. And yes, today we'll be talking about rolling back an upgrade. Right? So, cool. I think I can get started. Feel free to ask any questions along the way. We'll try our best chance at those. A brief introduction about YugabyteDB's architecture. So YugabyteDB is a distributed database. It runs on multiple nodes. So we have two main services, YB master and the YBT server. These run on different nodes, and we replicate data across the nodes for high availability, durability, fault tolerance, sharding, all of that stuff. Also, since to the app, it looks like one unified database. We do this by interchanging RPC messages between network communication between the different YB services to make it all stitch everything together and make it look like one DB, like running on a single node DB. So yes, now it's more complicated to upgrade something that's on multiple nodes than something on a single node. So before we go into upgrade itself, I'll talk about just a few things to clear up. So upgrade, when we say upgrade, we mean taking the database version from V1 to V2. V2 is newer than V1. And if Yugabyte, we release the version we have a major version and a minor version. The major version comes out every 6 months, and the minor version just comes along very frequently within the major ones. And you upgrade always to a higher minor version of a major or a brand new major version. And rollbacks. When you say rollbacks, what we are talking about is reverting your database back to the previous version that you were in before you started the upgrade. So you're going from V1, you're trying to go to V2, then something's going on and you want to roll back. You're going back to V1. So that's what we call, we say when we talk about rollbacks. Now, yes, before we get into all of that, why even upgrade?
Especially that's databases. A really good question. I've been DBA a lot, and people always fear to upgrade.
Exactly. Yep. I used to be in SQL, and people are on version 7 for years and years. And why upgrade? I have everything I need, right? So there are a few good reasons to upgrade. Yes, you get the new features. Some of them you would want, some you wouldn't want, but there's always new features, right? So recently, for Yugabyte, we added transactional X cluster, transactional CDC, new isolation levels, locking improvements, observability, all of that new stuff is coming in. And also, we always keep improving the performance, which it may either makes your query faster or lets you run at a reduced cost, right? If you use less CPU, you need less nodes. So that's a good thing to have. And recent improvements, we have like tablet splitting, statistic improvements, macros, so you can reduce CPU and disk space and all of the good stuff. And bug fixes. Of course, there are bugs and we do fix them. So there are always bug fixes going on and security vulnerabilities. There are those from YugabyteDB, also those from the dependent libraries that we use as well. It's always very crucial to keep all the softwares in the system up to date because of vulnerabilities. Also, the last thing is things do age out. All good things have to come to an end. So a Yugabyte release is valid for 2.5 years. We keep bringing out maintenance support for 2 years, and then there's another 6-month grace period for you to upgrade. So it's a long time, but eventually you will have to upgrade, right? So it's not optional. You have to do it at some point. So
I have a
Yes,
question for you then. If you use the long-term support release, that doesn't mean that you will run the same binary for years, because if it's not a major upgrade, but you still have to apply new patches or
minor
minor
upgrades.
releases. Yeah.
Right.
Mm.
Yeah, yeah. The bug fixes and security vulnerabilities are the most
Yeah.
common
Mm.
reason people always want to be on the latest version. And the minor has fewer things coming in. So it's less risky. It's not much going to change. Your app isn't going to degrade or anything. So it's safer to use a minor version.
Uh-huh.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you don't need the new features, it's always better for the bug fixes. Right. So how do you upgrade? Right? So YugabyteDB is how hard is it to upgrade? Well, upgrades are online and in place. So you don't need extra hardware and you don't have to move data. So it's not size of data and it's not going to be costly. Right? You don't have to spend anything for it. You can download the upgrades for free too, right? And it's a rolling upgrade, right? So we upgrade one node at a time. It's so that the database is available for the entire duration of the upgrade. So at no point are you going to take the system down. Your app is going to function fine. There'll be some glitches that nodes come up and down, load balancers working behind the scenes to keep everything running smoothly. Also, I mean, if you take a node down, there's like more pressure on the other nodes. So the performance is going to degrade by that one node being down. But like the system internally will keep everything online and up to date. And we run on top of Postgres. Well, Postgres doesn't have online upgrade. Any single node database, you can't do an online upgrade. You have to take it down and then bring it up. But yeah, in YugabyteDB, it's a pure online upgrade. Right. So rolling upgrade, just a quick glance. The way you do it is you have an initial state. We have three nodes, A, B, and C in this example, running on version V1. So while you're upgrading, you take one of the nodes and move the processes on that node from version V1 to version V2. And you do that one node at a time. So you take, in this example, I've taken C first, and then I'll do B, and then node E until everyone is on V2. I think that sounds simple, but yeah, we'll get into that. It's more tricky. Okay, so before we go into what's new, so let's look at what is the old way. What is the existing workflow that we have been using? So you start at version V1. The first thing you do is pre-upgrade checks. And you have to make sure that the version that you have is the version that you're going to go to is the latest. So that's definitely that. You have to make sure all your nodes are up, your app is healthy, check for load. I mean, you don't want to do an upgrade if you're watching the Super Bowl right now. So things like that, always say, yeah, make sure that happens. And
That's
yeah,
a
there's
really
some
good
things
point. Yeah, online doesn't mean that you have to do it at the peak hour. Yeah.
at the peak, exactly. Yeah, make sure the load is. It's a good time to do it, right? Because there's always some risk to it. So it's always pre-checks, and once they're so while the pre-checks are there, you haven't done anything. It's checks, so you can go back. You're on V1 technically, but after that, you have to commit to the new version V2, and it's a one-way street. Once you go down the path, you have to keep going, and there's no turning back, right? So you the first thing you do is upgrade the YB master processes, which YB master controls the load balancer and the placement and a bunch of other stuff like tablet splitting, pitter, clones. A lot of things are done at master level. So you do the masters first, so they know how to control the cluster, and then you upgrade the YB T servers. So once all of that is done, the last step is to promote auto flags and run YSQL catalog upgrade. I'll go more into what those are later down. For now, all you have to know is that's where we make on this changes and we flush things, change the schema of the Postgres tables, a bunch of other stuff on that. Yeah, but like I said, it's a one-way path, and you are going to commit to V2 at the start, even before you can try out V2, right? So you're committing to something that you don't know yet. So what can go wrong? I told it's a rolling upgrade, it's online in place, all of that is there, but things still go wrong. Right? So the obvious thing is like things going that we don't control, either the app or Yugabyte. So just the infra, something goes wrong. There's a sudden surge in the workload, like the Super Bowl. So like it should be okay to upgrade, but do you really want to? So that's one. Also, Certificates expire all the time. We've all had it. We've all forgotten to renew a cert. There's network outages going on. Facebook had an outage on all the services this week, so there's always something going on there. Zones go down, there's power outages, there are fires in data centers too. Right? So things will go wrong. And when other things in the infra go wrong, you don't really want to keep upgrading your database during chaos. Right? That's not a good time to upgrade. Also, the next step before I go to that, we do thoroughly vet and test every release before pushing it out. So you utmost guarantee that we have that things will be stable and everything will run soon. But given said all of that, there is still issues that you can see in the new version. Like the performance can downgrade when you run the new YB version. You can have unexpected behaviors. You may get new error codes coming out. Some error messages may change. Logging stuff may change. So it's going to break some, even if it's not the main app, some telemetry alerting stuff that you have. Something in the system may get impacted. So it's always possible. And also, every stack is unique. So, however hard we try, there are cases where something, just because of the uniqueness of stack, I've seen SSD firmware bugs due to differences in OS and guest OS and stuff. So, there's always like even firmwares have bugs, right? So, there's always that can take your process to almost.
All installation of database is different. There are different parameters. There is
Exactly.
different data. The state
There's
of the
different
database.
data, schema, right? Yeah, the workload. Even if you have the same schema, you have a different workload, and like
Yeah.
SQL is very expressive. It's crazy. You can do crazy things, but also for us, it means that you can. Everyone is unique. It's very hard to test. So yeah, things do go wrong occasionally. Right? More importantly, is that there's a risk that it may go wrong. It usually doesn't, but you always have that inherent risk in the system. So how would rollback help? So the rollback, the main advantage is that you can quickly migrate the issue from an upgrade. If you have something go wrong, you don't have to like worry about figuring out what the problem is now and then. You can safely, and it's guaranteed that you can go back to a known stable state, which is V1. You were on V1, you're working fine, and while you're moving, things are not good. You want to go back to V1. You want to go back to the last known good state, and then regroup, and then figure out what is wrong. Look at the logs, metrics, analyze everything offline. Take your time, get help from YB support, Slack channels or support team, and then once you figure it out, if it's usually it's minor stuff like error messages or some alerts need to be changed. So you can take your time to apply those required workarounds or fixes and test them. And you can do it, all of this you can do it, and the app is at V1 because you roll back. So the users are not impacted. So it really helps reduce the risk of an update. Right? And yeah, all of that will give you an ease of mind. So you have more confidence in the system. And the thing is, once you roll back, you can always try to upgrade again. If it doesn't work, you can roll back again. So hopefully you won't have an issue, but just calling out that you can try it back and forth. Right. So before I go further into how we do rollbacks, a brief overview of auto flags. So we had a dedicated YFTT about auto flags and how it all works. But to give a very brief glance, Yugabyte uses G flags to manage configurations and functionality. So you can tune your performance, you can enable stuff, you can enable macros, or all of those fancy stuff. Auto flags are built on top of G flags, and they're mainly there to control certain new features that we introduce. When I say features, some of these may also be security fixes, right? It's always bugs from uh, encryption software or just like packing, like zipping software, like compression, all of that, right? So when I say features, includes bugs too. So anything that changes the format of the data in the system, we use auto flags to guard those features. Auto flags let you safely and automatically enable the features. And it's all hidden from you what these features are. You don't have to know which flag name that you have to set or what to set it to or what's going on there. All of that. If you want, you can look at the release notes to figure it out. But for the most part, you don't have to worry about it.
So the flags are configuration parameters, and auto flags are configuration parameters that will be enabled at the right time, not during the rolling upgrade, because there are some features that you want on all nodes before using them.
Right,
right?
exactly. Yeah. So when you create a new universe, there's no previous state. So you can enable all of these things. Everything comes up at once, you're fine. But when you're doing an upgrade, like in the rolling upgrade manner that I showed before, you have something running V1, something running V2. If they're sending some RPC, we use protobuf. If you're sending protobufs around, protobufs is supposed to help with upgrades, but like even then, if you request a new message and the other side doesn't understand you, it's going to fail. So what auto flags for during an upgrade is that we keep all of these new things disabled until everyone is on V2. Once everything is on V2, we are ready to now finalize the upgrade. Now we are ready to commit to the version V2. And when you finalize, that's when you enable all the auto flags. And now we can send these new messages or even write them to disk. So yes, again, the YFTT goes more into the details of that and like the nuances there. Just for this example, I'm just keeping it a little bit more briefer. And we have three categories of these like features of flags. Another thing is like most new features, most new code that comes in doesn't change data formats. 95%, 99% of things you don't have to. Right? Usually you're just changing something in memory. You're changing from a list to a hash map or like changing some struct variable or something like that. So like you don't persist things or send them out. So it's very rare. So if you just look at code coverage, this is a very small fraction of the code. But even within this, we have split it into three parts. So the local or volatile, what it really says is these features only change the data format of messages sent over the network. It's all in memory, it's all on the wire. So if you wipe it down, if you just look at the disk, there's nothing on the disk, right? So it's all volatile. The next category is local persisted. So it's written to disk, but it's local to your cluster. We don't send it out. So your backups will not read it. X cluster is not going to use it. CDC is not going to use it. It's never going to leave the cluster. It's internal stuff that we need to maintain. Like some examples are the master things we store in the master. What are the tablets? What are the splits? Like when do we split things and stuff? And
Mm-hmm.
so, and then the third category is the things that's external. This is like literally things that can affect backups in X cluster. So if you change SSD file format, Pachot, which does, it's an external change because your backups are going to copy the SSD files, so the CDC and X clusters. So yeah, even within autoflags, we the subset of things, the 1% of stuff, we broke it down into three things.
I think also that if something happened during the upgrade, if you have an SSD file in a different version and it is bootstrapped to create a new replica in another node that is not at the same version, that can be problematic. So yeah,
Exactly. Yep. The tablet splitting literally does that feature. Like, it copies the SSD file from one node to another, and yeah, if one node is writing a new format of the SSD file, the other one cannot read it. It's going to crash. Same for our wall files from the raft. If you have new operations in the system, well, people can't read the log. That's not good. So they're all protected by autoflags. But again, we don't change the wall format every day, right? These are rare things that come up. So it's very rare. And this link to the public talks and the previous 5TT. So what's the new workflow? How are things going to look now? Now you start from V1 again, you do your same pre-checks. You still don't want to do an upgrade during a Super Bowl. Yeah, that's definitely still there. But after that, you go into three phases. Right? You start with the upgrade phase, and then you have the monitoring phase, and then the finalize phase. And the good thing is during the upgrade phase and monitoring phase, you can, in the middle of it, you can actually go to the rollback phase. And the rollback phase will put you back on V1. Once you're back on V1, it's like nothing happened. So you take the system to the exact state that it was in before, like nothing happened. And if I drill down into what these, or the finalized phase is when you literally commit to V2. So that's the point of no return. So after finalize, you are committing to V2. But before that, you're still trying things out. You're testing 99% of V2. You're making sure it's compatible for you, it works for you, don't have issues. So that's where the monitoring phase comes in. And this is time for you to test your system, increase your workload, just let it run for a few days. right? There is always a fluctuation in the workload. There's a pattern there. Wait for those patterns to emerge and see if everything works fine. And backups. There's going to be compactions going on. The system is going to breathe and settle in, right? See if it's all fine. So you can monitor it for a longer duration.
So maybe it's important when you say test, it is actually running the production because it is
Oh yeah,
online. We
it is online.
we
Right.
don't stop the application. We
Yes,
ensure that the application continues to work. It is
please,
test in the
exactly.
sense where you look closer at the system to be sure that everything works as
Everything's
expected.
right. Yeah, look at your metrics, look at your logs, look at the graphs. Everything should be during an upgrade. Like you said, it's online, but there's still some up and downs here and there because of the load on the system. But after that, things are going to settle down, and the load balance is going to make everything stable. The apps are going to settle down, and then you can like really compare the pre-state when you're in V1 and what you have in V2, and then check to see if your overall query latency has gone up or down. It's all of that fantasy stuff. There seems to be some few questions. So I think one question is there a way to script or query the G flags other than the YB admin URL? Yes, so every version that comes up, every version that we release, if you really want to look at what G flags there are, so I have a system in here. If you just go to, if you have it running, you can just go to G flags and it'll tell you what my university, what flags I have set here. All right. But if you just, without an installation, if you want to look at it, every release has a flags file, XML file, which tells you what flags are in that. There's also an auto flags JSON file that tells you what auto flags are in that. So there is metadata on every build to help you with that.
There is also another question, very important. Does the rollback lose the data that we get in the monitor phase, or do we retain the updates? And that's the whole point. I let you answer.
That's an awesome question. Yep. We don't lose any data. It's all online. The app is fine. I'll drill into that maybe. Then it's more clear. So what happens?
It's not point in time recovery. It's not flashback database because the application was running. You don't want to lose those transactions.
Yep. Everything's like for the app itself or for the users, it looks like nothing is going on. Right? Everything should look the same. So yeah, the upgrade phase is the same as we had before. You upgrade the YB masters and the T servers. So literally what you're doing is changing the binaries. You're stopping the old binary and starting the new binary. And I'll go into the optional one later. And then the finalized phase is when now you promote your auto flags, upgrade by scale. So the promotion of the auto flags is when things on the disk is going to change. Once you promote auto flags, that's when new things are going to be written into disk. So until that point, when you're in upgrade and monitoring phase, everything on the disk is literally the same as V1, right? Because in the upgrade phase, you have nodes on V1, so it should be able to read things over the network, even on disk. And right, even in the monitoring phase, we stick to that. We don't change data format while in monitoring phase. So that when you get to the rollback phase now, ignore again the auto flags, I'll get back to that. But all you have to do is change the binaries back to the old version. You do it in the other way around. Oops, sorry, there's a typo there. It should be T servers. So you first roll back your T servers and then you roll back your masters. So you do it in the other way around. So just go backwards. But it's just a binary change. It's like you're running an old binary and then a new binary. You're not going to lose data. It's all online. All right. So let's see. I do have time, a little bit of time. So I'll come back to the volatile auto flags, but essentially brief. I'll have a demo. So I'll do the demo and then come back to it. But brief thing is that the three categories of auto flags, the change stuff, the 99% is covered of the new code is covered in the monitoring phase. But if you still want 30% more of that 1%, you can enable and disable auto flags. So since it's all in memory and volatile, you can promote auto flags, the volatile ones, and then roll back the volatile ones. So you get absolute coverage of V2 as much as you can. So before you can commit to V2. That's volatile flags. And I will come back to it if you have time. Let's do the demo. And yeah, how do I demo it? I need something that doesn't work. So there's a bunch of ways to do it. I'm backend engineer, so this is the easiest thing I can do. Put a sleep one works for me. It's easy for me, so that's what I did.
I love
And
that.
yeah, have a 3-node local universe that's currently running 2.20.2. I can like query it version from MySQL, and I still see 20.2. So let me start some write workload. This is just inserting a single row in a table. It's a very complex table with 3 columns. Then I have something that's just scanning, limit 1, right? So my scans are running at 20 milliseconds-ish, and my writes are taking, of course, a second and 20 milliseconds. So yeah, it's slow. It's not perfect. So there's a sleep one. So let me upgrade to a version that doesn't have the sleep one. So I'm going to do, I have a script. I mean, this is just a simple bash thing that just takes nodes one down at a time. I'm going to go to 2.20.3.0. Oops. I missed the A. I can't type it. Okay, there you go. So it's stopping master, and it's going to do in a safe loading fashion. Of course, I didn't pause for 60 seconds. It's demos.
Mm-hmm.
So you're going to see some things slowing down, coming back up as nodes go down. Yeah, as soon as I take down T-server 1, it goes down.
Of course, the node
my
where
app
you are
is
connected.
connected to, yeah, it's not a fancy app. It's connected to a single node, so it has to be up. So yeah, and then let's do the other ones. Okay, it's done. And yeah, my writes are fast. Let's look at the version first. And 2.20.3.0, good. So my writes are now 20 milliseconds. Awesome.
So you change the code for the demo to make it slow to show that you have a new feature that makes it very fast.
Very fast. But if I look at the scans, it's not 500 milliseconds. So unfortunately, I didn't remove my sleep. I just moved it to the reads now. So my reads are 500 milliseconds and the writes are fast. So now, like, yeah, this is not great. And usually you want reads to be faster. So you're okay with like very fast reads and slower writes. So I look at this thing as like, nah, I would rather go back to 2.20. I want fast reads. I can't tolerate this. So I'm going to go back to, so I'm going to roll back. So roll back the 2.20.2.0. Let's go backwards. So this is literally taking down the T-servers. It's going to take down the T-servers first and then masters and just put them back on one binary. And like I mentioned before, there are inserts going on. So I didn't lose data. I could have had a more fancier app to show it, but like for the demo, I'm not going to do any rollbacks or backups or restores or pitters. It's all online. And yeah, it's doing it, but I can also see that my writes are taking a second, my reads are fast. So that's the main thing. My reads are now fast. They're not compromised. So that's good.
So
and then
with such a feature, you can roll back. If after an upgrade you see something that you cannot explain, you are not sure about it, then you can roll back and take the time to understand what happened.
Right. Exactly.
So that means that you need the logs of what happened during that time, and you have them.
Yes. You have them. So when you upgrade the binaries, you only change the binary location. We don't change the config, log, or data file locations. So they are still there. We don't lose them. It's all in place. So the logs are there. All the information is there. So you can roll back and then slowly go collect the metrics, logs, get your support bundles or whatever you have, and then analyze them. Right? It may be a database problem. It may be an app problem. In this example, and when I go back, look at it, I clearly had a sleep in the wrong place now. So
easy to fix.
Easy to fix. So I did fix it. So I fix it in version. I need a new version. Also 2.20.3.1. So upgrade. Did I get the right thing? Oh yeah. Just to show the version number again. I don't know if I did that, but I'm back on 2.20.2. So now let's upgrade again to 2.20.3.1. Yes, under the fix. So this one, I'm pretty sure I didn't have any sleep. For the demo, I'm doing it all in real time, but ideally the upgrade and rollback are going to be back to back, and then the first upgrade and the rollback. But then after the rollback and the final upgrade, you take some days to regroup, regather, and figure out what to do. And things are coming back online. What did I upgrade to?
I have a question. If you realize that there is a regression, a query that is slower, um, before the rolling upgrade of all nodes. For example, you just upgrade one node, you connect to it, you test it, you can already roll back. And then the other ones didn't see the problem. So
Right,
maybe
you can do
you
it in
can
a
do first a zone, for example, or maybe you have a zone where you know there are less critical customers.
Right, right. By the way, I had a typo in my thing. It's a bash script. It's not too fancy. I just cd to this folder, and of course, yeah, no file or directory. I missed a V in that. So I
Oh,
went
yeah.
back. I was staying on 2.20. I didn't have upgrade it. So let's do the upgrade again. And it's a real demo. So
Yeah, a demo without typo. It's not
yeah,
a real one.
there you go. It's done, and now both are fast. You can just like see it's running. So perfect. So now, yep, all good. And I can look at my thing. It says 2.20.3.1. I can also query my version 2.20.3.1. Awesome. So yep, I didn't check in the code, by the way, if you're curious. The sleep isn't there in production, so don't worry. And let's see. Some final points to note is that this is available from version 2.20.2.0. So you should already be on 2.20.2 before you can roll back things. X cluster is fully supported with both upgrades and rollbacks. You cannot roll back after you do a finalize because things on disk has now changed. However, if you do really want to go back, there are a few options, not so great, but you can always restore from a backup taken on the old version to an older cluster. That will have data loss. Or I can do an export import, which will take the data out and script it out in a scriptable manner. You may have to change the script depending on things changing between the versions. But yeah, it's more cumbersome. This is where like you do a size of data move after the finalize. But before finalize, there's like it's all in place. And we have updated our docs. So if you go look at the docs section, there's a bunch of useful links and tips and warnings in there. And we are at time. Let's see if there's another question we can answer before.
I can ask a question. This is fully open source.
It's fully open source. Yes, everything we talk about in YFTTs are fully open source. So
because it's in the core of the database, with support, we may have tools to automate it, do some automation if you have 100 of databases. But this is fully open source. Yeah,
it's fully open source. Yep, all the information is here. The code is here. You can like I show the code. So yeah, I don't have to worry about not showing the code. So yes, everything's open source. You can use the feature. It's also instructions on. I didn't get time to cover the volatile auto flags, but there are instructions in the public talk, so you can go follow that as well.
Perfect. If there are any questions, I'm looking on LinkedIn. The connection was lost on LinkedIn for a few minutes, but I think now it works.
There's one from.
And I see Pete says, it was confirming that it's only about binaries. So you have means also that it takes nearly no time.
Yep.
And that's the most important, because when you have to roll back, it means that something doesn't work as expected, and you don't want to stay in this state for too long. Yeah.
Yep. It's really quick. Yeah, it's all in. It's just the binaries. If you do the volatile ones, also the things on network is going to be new, but it's optional. It's volatile. So it depends on how much coverage you want. You can go that one extra mile, and even that is open source. Right? You can do it.
And Venkata says, thanks for the talk. Yeah, that was really nice. And the demo, I love the demo where you change the binary to introduce some bugs.
Yeah.
Okay, if there are no more questions, then we are on time. And so perfect. Thank you very much for that. And let me just mention that if there are any questions later, we have the Slack channel, we have a forum, issues on GitHub, and social network. Easy to ask questions and get more information about it if you need it. Thank you.
Thank you, everyone. Thank you, Franck.
Goodbye.